Okay. We're gonna have some fun with this, so.
Yes.
But I do. All right. Well, we've got our first one.
I think I'm like.
They'll just trickle in.
Okay.
I believe in them. I'll just give them a few more. Just so they're... Because I'm pretty sure I'm looking at the viewer count. Hopefully, I think I am.
Okay.
But if not, then I'll get started, and then we can... Oh, yes, we do! Good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon. Hope everybody's doing well today. I'll give us a few more little minutes to get settled before we begin. Okay. Give y'all about one more minute, and then we will get on with it. So... All right. Well, I think we can go ahead and get started on this big bad boy. I'm Dana. I work as an intern with Amplify, actually, but this is not about me. This is about Miss Phyllis Clark, and she is here to talk about anti-impostorism. She has an amazing career as an educational psychologist, and she works with the Kentucky Student Success Center. She's a doctoral candidate, actually, and she is amazingly qualified to present this. She is phenomenal, and she is a CEO, and she is a founder of Phyllis Clark Coaching and Consulting. So I think that we should just let her take it away. We're going to listen to everything she has to say, and it's going to be great. Phyllis, are you ready?
Yes, I'm ready. I don't know if you can just let me know about the technology to make sure my screen can be seen. But yes, I'm happy to be here. Thank you, Amplify. I appreciate you so much for letting me share this information that I've been researching for about 5 years now. Okay, really 6. Okay. But I come to you today just feeling really encouraged and so stoked about the new way of believing in ourselves. And so what I want to talk about today is I framed it and packaged it in one word, and I call it courageous, because that's really what it boils down to. And courageous is my framework and my thinking and the way that I'm living in this space around what I want to call and want you to call an anti-impostorism movement. Okay, so this is a movement, this is a practice. What I want to share are certain behaviors and things that we're going to have to go through, not as individuals, but as a collective, in order to move our personal agendas, our community agendas, and our regional and national, international agendas forward, right? And so I want to show it to you in the belief of core consciousness and cultivation. And what this does is it brings, I want you to think about bringing clarity, more clarity to yourself, having confidence in your purpose and the courage to do what you've been called. And so I'm going to share several screens. We're going to have a little bit of time for some Q&A on the back end. If there are questions, while I'm talking and walking through this information, I would love to entertain those. I know we don't have a lot of time, and I just want to thank you for jumping on, for listening in, and just for thinking about what I want to share today. All right, so
Okay.
Dana, I'm gonna get through this. Are we seeing slides?
Not yet, not yet.
Okay.
It might just be loading.
Okay, great. So I don't mind escaping for just 1 second and coming back into the stream to represent again.
No problem.
Okay. All right, now we're going to share screen. So everybody out there, hang on just a minute. Y'all know how technology is. We've been working with it real good over the past 3 years now. So, okay. This might look a little funky at first, but we'll get to the right place in just a moment. Okay, how are we now?
I'm not seeing any yet.
Not quite. Okay.
I wonder.
Okay. I think we'll get into it now. All right, this is going to look a little weird at first.
Okay, here it comes.
There we go.
There we go. Okay. Okay, Phyllis, I'm going to let you take this away. Okay. Are you ready for this?
I am. How about you?
Okay. Yes, I am. Okay. I'll let you take over then, all right?
Okay.
Okay.
All right, great. So I was just sharing how, number one, I appreciate your being here as I share a little bit about this research that I've been getting into lately. And I've packaged it in such a way where it's going to force you to think about how to be just a little bit more courageous. And so this is an anti-impostorism movement. So those of you all who have a little bit of time to spend with us today, I wish there was a way that we could go through some introductions, but if you so choose, feel free to put your information in the. I think there is a way for you to share. Yeah, so feel free to do that. If not, no worries at all. You can reach out to me on LinkedIn or some other platforms, and don't mind continue having this conversation with you. But what I want you to do is to define. I want to define the imposterism construct, and I even want to show you a little place where you can go and take an imposterism quiz. I'm going to share a little bit more on the origin and the 4 classic behaviors of imposterism. And then I want to tell you a little bit about my personal story. I just need folks to understand how I even got here and what was that trigger for me. There were 2 big triggers, and I want to share a little bit of that. And then I want us to understand how IP behaviors, what they are. There are 4 classic ones that came out in the seminal study, and I want to share that. So if you're out there, if you're operating in this way, or if you're observing that and seeing it, then you understand then what that looks like. Okay, and then I want to leave you with 5 tips to help you overcome IP. Or maybe there's someone, maybe you don't suffer from IP, but you can maybe recognize it and you can help others with your advice, your motivation, your encouragement. Okay, I hope that sounds good. Okay, so why does this matter? This matters because we want to help not just women, but men also become more aware of what these feelings are and where they originate and what they truly mean. We want to help practitioners, community partners, and other people develop the programs and services that support women and girls, boys and men, support everyone. We're all in different areas, in different walks of life, in different ages, and there's so many different characteristics, but yet and still we have a purpose to fulfill. And sometimes we don't show up as well as we want to or as well as we should. There are some things holding us back, making us play small. And for me, I have spent about the better of 20, 25 years thinking this was more attached to me when it is not. And I want to talk to you a little bit as to why I have separated myself from those self-limiting beliefs. This also matters because, again, I think these bullets that I have here, I was speaking primarily to women at the time, but all of this applies to everyone. So you'll hear, even though you might see to help women or to help women one thing or another, all of this applies to men and boys as well. Okay, but to help others fight. You can see the little things that I have there and what they represent, but there's just stuff that goes on in our head and it just takes over and it tells us these stories, even if they are not true, but we tend to believe. And so that keeps us from our purpose. It keeps us from our passion. It keeps us from doing the things that we're called. And a lot of that is this big old thing that I like to call the inner critic, even though there's some more crispy words for it. But for the most part, it is your inner critic. And so when you identify what that is, you can overcome what imposterism or the imposter phenomenon and the things related to it are trying to do to you, either in thought or behaviors, and how it's working really hard to make you manifest something that you don't want to see, do, or feel. Okay, so this is why this matters. So let's just talk about what imposterism is. You can find it in the literature as the imposter phenomenon. The abbreviation for that is IP, and you'll see me speak through that. But it's the act or the psychological pattern of harboring these feelings of inadequacy, self-doubt, and even to the point where it becomes so stifling that you just feel like a fraud. You don't feel like you're the one, you're the person that you were picked because or selected for a position or a role. Because of something else other than your talent, other than what you bring to the table. And this is thinking these things. Okay. And even though the research does talk about it being more prevalent in women, men do experience these feelings too, but it's been found to be a little bit more intense in women. Again, it could also be found intense in men in certain sectors. Okay, and so if you have a moment, I would love for you to take an imposterism assessment. So this is not a diagnostic tool or anything like that. This is just something quick and to the point of answering a few questions. I think there are about 14. You can actually click on the link that I have here on the slide and it'll take you directly to it. You'll be able to read a little bit more. It comes from psychological.com, I believe. But if you click on that, you'll see exactly who's administering the quiz, and you'll also be able to read some quick results. And so the questions are anonymous, and if you just follow the directions, and you'll receive that information right away. Okay, and so I'm just going to take a brief little pause, and once we get done with that, I would love for you to use your phone or your device or even another tab on your computer and go to menti.com. And if you are so willing, to enter the numbers that you see at the bottom. And I have a quick slide for you to answer one question, and we will see the responses from those of you who wish to participate. Again, you don't have to, you can just sit here and wait with me for those who are taking the quiz. Again, 14 questions, they go fairly fast, and you get results right away, and you'll be able to understand how you need to answer the question when you see it in menti.com. Okay, so I'll pause for a moment. Dana, if you're out there and if there are questions in the chat, or if there are some other things that you see, some other comments or information, please let me know what that is, as I cannot see any of that quite yet.
No problem. I will do that, okay?
All right. Thank you. Okay, and if you're just joining us, we are talking about anti-impostorism. And I have just briefly gone over the definition of impostorism. And now, for those who so choose, are taking a quick little quiz just to see where they stand on the impostorism continuum. Okay, let's take another maybe 10 seconds and get a quick result. And if you can, head over to menti.com, put in the 8 digits that are shared on this screen. If you can't see the screen, I'll just say it quickly for you. Again, it's menti.com, menti.com, 3183 9520. 3183-9520. It will bring you to a slide that is interactive, and you will be able to see the question and select your answer. And you should see 3 bars that ask you whether or not you, based on the quiz, you have little impostorism. You are triggered by quite a bit, or that you suffer quite a bit from imposter feelings.
I'm sorry to interrupt, Phyllis.
Sure.
Someone in the chat said that the quiz is not open. Is that just because you have to get into it via the code, or is that because the code may not be working?
You have to, let's see here. I'm going to escape for a moment. Okay. Let's try it this way. Now you're probably looking at a little bit of my back office here on the answer. Okay, well, here's what we're going to do. Just because of time, I'm going to stay on that. I can't look at this and see where there is an issue with that, but I
Mhm.
always have a backup plan for things like this, right? Okay, so if you are willing, feel free to just place your answer in the chat and just share it with us that way.
All right. That'd probably be better. You're right.
Yeah, again, it's really just a little repository for the folks who are sharing with us. But if there's another way to share, let's go ahead and just do that. And so I'll go back to the slideshow. Hopefully you're viewing my screen again.
Yes, you're on the screen. No worries.
Okay, great. All right. And if you happen to see a result in the chat or something, or just some information. So if you don't mind just using your own words, if you took the quiz and whatever the information, the analysis, the way the algorithm works, it does its magic and it tells you something as soon as you submit. If you don't mind just sharing a little bit of that. For instance, mine shared that I might have some issues with imposterism, and here's where it might show up for me. Okay, so feel free to just place a little statement like that. All right, we'll give people time to think about that and to share that info. And if this is not something you have time to do right now, that is totally fine. Please go back after this session is over and think about that, think through it, take the quiz a little bit later, share it with others. Again, this is just something to help you understand what this is and how it is impacting you, based on the science behind it. All right, Dana, you see any responses or anything in there? And maybe we won't have any today. And that's okay too.
Right now we haven't got any, but they may still be taking it. Hopefully they're still taking it.
Okay. All right. And if you want to, I'm going to keep going because I want us to get to a point where we can, open up for Q&A.
Oh, well, we did. We just got our first one.
Oh, great. What was that?
I said, I'm assuming it's a him. His name is Tim. He said he does have some signs of imposterism. He says it's very similar to yours. So it seems to be. It feels like many people probably have, judging by what you said before, at least a little bit of imposterism, especially with the world we live in today. So.
Yeah, I mean, it's really not uncommon, at all. It shows up differently for different people in different situations or circumstances. And this is not something that you say, oh, I have imposterism, and you just live in that imposterism life everywhere you go, or thinking that you, are less than or not confident about something just because you are who you are. You know what I'm saying? And so, and I feel like and what was going on with me at the time in my professional spaces, that's really where I felt it the most. As a parent or as oh gosh, I don't know, as a student, I'm no, I don't harbor any intense imposterism feelings in those particular sectors of my life. But guess what? In a professional setting related to certain functions and responsibilities that I'm called to do, or being a CEO or a founder, owner of my business, there are certain things that I sat down on, but I did it on purpose. Some of those things were on purpose. I didn't want to play big because I felt like I didn't have either the right to be there, or there were certain things that were intimidating me and telling me that, making me compare, myself to other things that were going on in these spaces. And that is happening to us at all levels. So let me share some more slides here to get to the root of all of this. So imposter syndrome was coined and identified by two psychotherapists, two white females in the 1970s who wanted to study. You can go look them up, Plants and Imes. But the groundbreaking study was conducted for over the course of 5 years with about 150 what they called at the time highly successful, high achieving women. Okay, they wanted to know why all of these high achieving women thought that they were, imposters. They literally named themselves that. And so they also wanted them to study the origins and the behaviors and the dynamics and what would make them believe this about themselves, because you have achieved, right, all of these things at different points and times in your life, but yet and still you feel this way about yourself. Okay. And it's interesting because a lot of people are starting to understand what imposter syndrome and imposterism is. But what I've found is that we kind of stay close to the surface. And when I started studying this in fall of 2016, I noticed that there was so much more to all of this, and another story that we probably need to tell, and that's what my research is based on, and I can share that here in just another minute. There are several different ways to look at imposterism, and that's what I like to call it. So you'll hear me say that a lot. All right, so they found that imposters, and yes, they use that label, fall into one of two groups as it relates to family history. So we're going back to early triggers and things. It looks like that this is part of their origin story for imposterism. Number one, sibling or relative who's been designated as the intelligent member of the family. So there's that comparison, and that whole need to prove. Number two, the family conveys to sons and daughters that they are just superior. They get all this praise. You're just so special. And and I don't do that for my daughters. I don't. Where there's a win, there's a win. Where there's a loss, there's a loss, and there are just some other ways to look at how your life needs to unfold without being pampered every single minute, pampered with praise and all of these things. So what happens to young people especially is that you start thinking that, oh, I have to be this. I have to win at everything, So I'm gonna fake it until I make it. So that whole thing starts to manifest itself inside, and then outwardly we start trying to figure out and play games with ourselves, and get pretty despondent if we don't win, because I've been told all my life that I am a winner and I'm great at this. Okay, I can sit on that all day, but I won't. Okay, so here are the classic behaviors that I wanted to share. 4 very specific behaviors. Remember, this is going back to the seminal study. I'm trying now in research to find what are some other behaviors, okay, that reveal themselves. All right, that's what I'm in the middle of now. But when you think about the origin story of all of this, here were the top 4. And they said messages sent in our early childhood could be exposing families to the imposter phenomenon, and they have no clue. So let's look for these. Hard work, phoniness, charm, and anxiety are the classic behaviors that I want to say help with the emergence of harboring imposter feelings, the emergence of those feelings, harboring of those feelings, all of that. And it comes out in different ways. Okay. And here they are up close. So when we talk about the diligence and the hard work, well, there's nothing wrong with diligence and hard work, right? Unless you have a constant fear that you're going to be that you're stupid, that you're thinking one way about yourself, and here's what you have to do to not have other people think this way about you. Okay. So what you do is you work harder and harder to keep from being discovered. Number 2, phoniness. That's where you start to become inauthentic. Okay. Again, I think my last presentation was was geared towards women, and so I have the nouns and pronouns in here for women. But again, this can be attributed to men and boys as well. Okay, so people start to lead a life of inauthenticity, and they don't feel good about sharing their opinions and ideas. That was me. In college, that was me more often than not. Charm is another. Okay. You become more interested in being well liked and being the super special person. And so you start doing things and looking for all of this validation. Okay. You need something else outside of yourself to tell you how good you are. And so you start to be as charming as possible in multiple ways. Anxiety. This behavior is brought on by the need to not be seen so that you won't be anxious. And so you start avoiding all of the things. I sat in all of these spaces for so long, and people who have grown up with me, people who've been my associates and professional friends, I don't know if they saw any of this in their interactions or connections with me. I felt like I was good at hiding it, but guess what? I'm pushing it all out there. I am releasing myself of this, of these thoughts. It's not like it goes away, but I have some new ways of overcoming and dealing with it when it wants to try and show up. And this is why I'm saying we need a whole movement. This is just not me wanting to share, define what this catastrophic stuff is, but I want other people to be able to identify this within themselves and others, or or be able to observe what's going on out there and call it out in some form or fashion. So, and I think I just kind of gave you this real quick, but yeah, I've been dealing with this for myself. And, I put a little list over here of all of these things that I did in high school. In fact, this is a picture of me. I think I was about 22, and it was my last semester, close to my last few weeks of student teaching. And, I was okay working with my high school orchestra, being in front of them and leading them, right? I had that confidence, I had that skill set, that knowledge base, I was ready. But when my professor asked me to go and play the tritoms, I'm like, okay. That everything was shot in terms of my belief in myself and my abilities, because I didn't know the first thing about the trend. Somebody happened to have captured this picture. This isn't staged. This is me really trying to figure out how to play some tritoms. Um, and I forget, I hope that's the right name. I hope that musicians on here aren't getting me for not calling them the right the right thing. But anyway, so yeah, so I had achieved all of these things, and I'm like, you know what? I'm just, I don't know. Why do I feel this way about myself? Why am I holding myself back? There's so many things that I could have been working on, could have been thinking differently about, could have supported better if I had only. And so here's the other thing. It's not like, we're in the deficit. We are fire, right? I'm talking about helping other people as well as myself understand the fire inside, right? And your purpose. And I have a little phrase that I've started to use, and I want you to use it too. It's about branding your brilliance. We were all made in the image of our higher source, right? And so you have to know that you are here for a reason. You have to carry out your assignment. But when you belittle your own self with self-limiting beliefs and all these other things that stall, or what people might say, or what you think people might say about you, whether they do or they don't, but if you're living in that lane around certain things, then I want to encourage and motivate whoever can hear and see this right now or later. Let's start thinking differently about that. Um, hmm. And I go back to my trigger, and I went all the way back to the first grade. And here is a picture of me. I think I was about 5. And what happened the very next year is shattered all of this for me, because a little boy ran up to me, and he I was going somewhere, we were on the playground, and he ran up to me and he kneeled down. I don't know why, maybe he was tying his shoe, but he looked up at me. He was right in front of me. He looked up at me, and I guess the angle he saw, he was like, "Oh, Phyllis, you got a fat face. You are such a fat face. You got a fat face. You got, you know." And so there was this whole song that he sang around fat face Phyllis. And, and I'm 6, right? And I'm like, what? You know, that hurt me. That hurt me. I mean, kids can be ruthless. And so I went home that day and I'm like, Mama, do I have a fat face? And your mom is gonna take care of you, right? Oh, baby, you are beautiful. It comforted me, but that's something I never forgot. And I remember posting a Facebook story about, don't let something that a little boy tells you, or girl even, that hurt your feelings and took you down this wormhole for so many. Don't let that hold you back. Again, you are here for a reason. You have stuff to do. And the day that he called me fat, if that is my trigger, then I'm honoring that by identifying it and letting it be what it is. I have nothing else to do with what he believed he saw with me. I just don't. But we have kids around here, young adults, maybe even seasoned seniors who are still carrying things and not able to do what they've been called because of stuff like this. Okay. Or it might be for something else. This was my lived experience and I wanted to share. Um, and so this took me down another road, however, that made me want to be something that I wasn't. And so it started for me in the 4th grade all the way through the 8th grade. And, I started to become like this little sidekick bully, is what I named it, because I was starting to hook up with some folks who just weren't good for me. And I wanted to be their friends. And I started to do what they wanted me to do until one day I got with the wrong person, a really wrong person who dared me to flip the script and become the bully. And I did that with one very specific person. And the day that I did, I ended up palming his head in the water fountain. And he, his glasses, we were in orchestra, I'll never forget. His instrument was all crooked, his glasses kind of twisted and water all on it. And, and I just ran down the hallway laughing and, look at you, look at you. And he turned around and he looked at me and he just said, well, you don't have to do what she's telling you to do. And I just kind of watched him walk away. And that stuck with me for forever. So it was another peer who made me think differently about myself. And, I was one way at home, but I was another way at school because I didn't know anything about IP or imposter. I just knew, at 15, this guy 10 years ago, 12 years ago, called me something that I still think exists today. And I still feel a certain way about myself because I'm ugly or because nobody wants to have a fat face friend. So I started operating in a way that was going to make me have friends. And to my detriment, it was all of that stuff for 4 years in my school life until one person helped me to see something different in me at a moment in time. And I believed it. Something in me said, believe that. And that changed my whole life. And just to end that story, I ended up marrying that person. And we'll celebrate 30 years together next summer. But that is something that had been bubbling up and twisting and winding and doing all of these things within me for a long time until I got, and yes, I do get a little bit emotional about this every single time I tell it, because I know that there are some of our youth and young adults, and like I said, older folks who are still walking around with hurts like that, and it's affecting so many other areas of their life. And, we're in a time right now where the landscape and just all of what we're going through in our communities and just in the world in general, we need to understand more about our fire inside. Yeah. So we can bring this light to whatever it is in a bigger way to whatever we are called to do. And so I want to give you 5 tips to help you overcome imposterism as I look at the time here. Tame your inner critic. You have to be able to separate yourself from your inner critic. Develop a signature and influencing brand archetype. You'll hear lots of influencers now talking about personal branding and brand yourself. And we're not talking about necessarily a product or service, but brand you. What is the promise of the experience that people will have with you when they interact with you? Are they going to feel that you are, drenched in imposter feelings? Or are they going to look at you and get from you your assignment? So your brand archetype, understanding where your magic is and figuring out where your passion lies. It's just the one thing, but it impacts so much, right? Number 3, scale your productivity and establish your high performance. How do you get things done? How do you close your own gaps? How do you figure out your methods of operation? How do you work at work? Number 4, strategize your plan through the creation of your own strategic agenda. We have corporations, nonprofits, other organizations, institutions of all kinds who have a vision, who have a mission, who understand what they have to bring to their communities, right? And to their audiences. And they all have strategic agendas. Well, if they can, then you can too as an individual. And so I want you to think about creating your own plan. It's not enough anymore just to write down your goals. You need to become the event planner of your life and understand how you're going to figure out how to reach those goals. What are the objectives? What are your high impact practices that you're going to be involved in and engaged in every single day to complete your assignment? And then number 5, trying to get a little funny here, but the emphasis is real. Tame your inner critic. One of the best things that I've been able to do is to understand that however the bigness of something that I have made in my mind, I have to counter that with something just as big. And so I was working through something the other day. I just recently defended my proposal for my dissertation. And, I was going into that situation thinking, oh, the what if and the whatnot, and do I have this? And how about you know? And then I get through that. But in order to keep me and to pull myself back from the what ifs and I should have did and why didn't I, I had to think about why I was even called to this work on the flip side. What I have here is good enough. I am good enough to do this right now. So I have to send myself messages that drown out that negate what imposter feelings are trying to make me believe or to have me feel. So be willing to tame your inner critic. And I'm not saying fight it. I'm not saying battle it. I'm not saying go rounds and rounds with it. You can't do that. Remember, this is something that is trying to keep you safe, right? Trying to keep you from harm, what it thinks might be harmful. Trying to keep you playing small. There's some great research and information out there to help you move into your uncomfort zone. I like to call it. I know the correct word is discomfort, but I play with words. um, and so be thinking about what that can look like for you. I can't wait, to start thinking about how I'm going to move through 2023. I hope your 2023 is augmented by new ways and of thinking about things and what you want to do for yourself based on what I'm sharing here. If this has been helpful or pertinent, I hope it has served you. Can't get all the way down in the well, but hopefully this has been something that you can take along with you. You can think about. Or that you can use immediately. And so I appreciate you for being here again, looking at the time. And thank you for letting me share. And so Dana, if I can turn things back over to you to transition us to a 15-minute Q&A, 10 minutes, 15 minutes. If there are questions, thoughts, anything like that, I would love to hear what's in the comments, or if you have questions or anything, let me go ahead and come off screen.
No problem. Yes. And actually, I do have a few questions of my own, of course. People in the chat have been saying, like, what you were saying, like, become the event planner of your life. I really liked that one. I thought that one was really spot on what you were saying. But especially when you were talking about a lot of what you'd gone through as a woman, a lot of stuff, it really resonated with me. And especially, so I wonder, after realizing what you'd gone through with the imposterism, do you think it made you better at taking yourself seriously and loving yourself more, especially when, like, just when you realized it? Were you able to, like, when you were giving us the tips, did it make it easier for you to realize what you were doing to yourself?
Well, I don't think I've ever shared this publicly, but I actually had a little bit of a breakdown. And someone else, how a 15-year-old helped me at a remarkable time in my life. Well, in my professional journey, my then supervisor helped me. She understood that there was something still just rumbling within me that just wasn't quite right. And so I was giving all of my time and attention to the institution I was serving, right? But she sat me down, and I got this is so interesting to me. And so it was around the time of a performance appraisal, and there was one little section that I got I didn't do so well in out of all the categories of a management audit like that, and it was professional development. And so what I had to do was to start being a part of community. And she saw that. She saw I was being isolated in these things that I just thought I could do by myself, right? But I needed to get in with community and other like minds and other folks to help see the things in you that you may not see for yourself. There was still so much more of that going. So mentoring, coaching, professional development, you can't coach yourself, right? For the most part. You can't really learn from yourself, maybe through your lived experiences, yes. But, it just became really, really interesting to me and then I and once she helped me understand that, now that didn't affect my pay at all. It was just something that she noted in the record that I want you to do for yourself. And we're going to talk about it a year from now again. But anyway, yeah, so I saw that I had work to do, but I had to do it differently. I couldn't do it on my own. And so that's when it became important to be a part of the Professional Woman Network, the engaging in networks at the institution that provided for, additional communications, right? And just understanding what our lives have taught us, in different ways. And then I became interested in how to help, young women, because I was a recruiter at the time and looking to bring people into the institution. And so I'm out at different places and I'm talking to these young women and men, and we're all, I know I can't make a generalization like that, I saw some things in these
Mm-hmm.
youngsters, and I'm like, if I could just pull these things out of you so that you could see how sharp you are, you know? And so it's like lighting that fire. And that's what I think community and professional development and personal development does for us. So I'm sorry, I know that was a big answer, but I think about
No,
this
no,
stuff.
it's perfect. That's perfect. And I just really agree because the pressure on women to be almost perfect all the time, like you were saying, is just immense a lot of the time, and they can't escape that. It's just been ingrained into society to that point where they sometimes I don't think they could probably not escape the imposterism at some point. And I guess that leads me to another question. Like, do you think imposterism is a lot more widespread these days?
Absolutely. Absolutely. We just don't know it when we see it. So that's why I want to continue pushing out the definition of it, these 4 behaviors. But remember earlier, I said there are some other things that is making me want to call this out too, because in some of the spaces that we live in, now my dissertation is around the influence of imposterism on Black graduate women. Okay. And so I want to see, especially if they're in predominantly white institutions, I want to know how this may have affected them, the different things that go on externally in some of these institutions that might make a student feel that way. You know, there's 2 or 3 things that could be at play from all of this. So the culture, the environment, some of the blatant racist things that might be happening in their environments. Is this having an impact? So that's what I'm looking at. But I'm doing what's called a phenomenology so that I can understand the entire essence of the participants of my study, right? And that's going to tell me some other things that I can bring into this conversation around imposterism, because there are some things stemming from community that's making people believe in some of these self-limiting beliefs, and I want to attack that.
Okay, thank you. That's amazing. Honestly, that is absolutely amazing. I'm looking at the chat right now. Someone said, Vanessa said thank you, and then she said that she really needed this information. And then, she also asked for the link to the PI assessment via email.
Okay.
For that. Great. I wonder, we haven't got any other questions. Anybody else is free to ask questions. We can give a little grace period or whatnot.
And let's see here. So if I put something in the chat, Vanessa would be able to see it, or do I need to just give her my contact information and we can?
I think if you post it in the chat, they should be able to see it. If you're under the all, are you under the all section?
Private chat.
If you want, you can private chat it to me, and I can put it in the main chat.
Great, because I have it right here.
There it is.
Now, there's also a full assessment from the psychotherapist who introduced the term, the construct. And so let's see if I can do a.
All right. It's in the chat for everybody who wants to take it then.
And you'll hear, a lot, even in influencers and leaders, women leaders specifically talk a lot about the imposter syndrome. And I just encourage everyone to understand what it looks like, how it actually shows up, and what are the domains for the behaviors that you can start to attribute this to. Okay. And then there are so many little spin-offs of all of those. And then what I want to slide in here around environment and culture and, the impact of some other nasty forces, that's a whole nother level of thinking about the impact of imposter phenomenon. So.
Mm-hmm. No, I definitely understand. I think it's very widespread, especially among social media today.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it doesn't look like we have any other questions. Would you like
Okay.
to talk about your LinkedIn or any other thing for the live, if you'd like?
Sure. And I've just put in Pauline Rose Clance, who is the
Okay.
lead psychotherapist who helped to found the construct. And so there's way more information there, as well as an assessment, the true assessment, the one that I'll actually be using for my study.
Okay.
And so, but yes, I would love if you want to know more about this, you want to have a quick 20-minute coaching session just around your results. You want to talk through some things. Now, I am not a therapist, I am a coach. And so I love, how people can start where they are and create a plan for where they see themselves or where they want to be. So that's my lane now. My mother is a therapist,
Mm-hmm.
and there are so many amazing mental health professionals and therapists in our community. And I know this is a season right now where that is being elevated, and really being paid attention to for all of us at all levels. And so I appreciate it, even in the professional space too. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so I can be found on LinkedIn under my name, Phyllis L. Clark. You can find me on Facebook. I do have a group that I call She's the Boss. And BOSS stands for Build a Winning Strategy and Execute. So that's kind of like getting down in the weeds to help women, whether they're in education or business, to build their strategic plans. And so I appreciate this time. And I know it's been one solid hour, so now I have to go back and hit my other clock.
That's okay. That's okay. I really do just want to thank you for joining us today. We are very, very thankful to have you, especially a partnership with Amplify. Everybody, please go look at her LinkedIn, look at her work. Please, she's put so much effort and time into this. I definitely think that she deserves way more attention for this.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you so much. And if you will, please, everybody, go follow Amplify on Facebook, LinkedIn, anywhere you see us. We will be more than happy to talk to you, or you can come visit us. We can talk then. But thank you so much, everybody, for coming. This was very eye-opening, and I really hope everybody learned about how to combat this and what anti-impostorism has become and what it has done and how we can combat that back. But thank you so much for coming, Phyllis.
Yes. Thank you, Dana. And thank you, everybody.
Thank you everybody. All right. Bye.
Bye.